I'm Bradley Barth, Senior Reporter at SC Media. I'm here with Zaid Al Hamami, the co-founder and CEO of web application security provider Immunio. Zaid, talk a little bit about your company and what it does.
All right, thank you, Bradley. So Immunio is sort of next generation web security technology company. Web applications have been a major attack vector. So 40% of all breaches that happened last year, according to Verizon, actually targeted web applications. And the industry for the last sort of 15 years has been focusing on finding the flaws in these web applications and then trying to fix them quickly. So, the way we build software today has just been getting faster and faster. We've moved stuff to the cloud, the operations has changed, and the ways of trying to do things, or the way we used to do things in the past, no longer sort of applies. And so my co-founder and I started Immunio with a very, very different sort of take on the problem. The terminology or the category that we're given today is called RASP, Runtime Application Self-Protection. And the idea there is you're basically embedding security into the application whereby it's now able to protect itself against exploitation, as opposed to having a team of experts who are trying to find all the flaws ahead of time.
Right. And talk a little bit about, as companies migrate more toward a cloud-based architecture, how does that impact a company's need to be more secure on a web application level?
Yeah. So, the cloud sort of over the last, I would say, 8 years or so was probably the single biggest sort of change in how IT happens. And not just where the software runs, it used to run in your data center and now it runs in the cloud, but more so how software is built, right? So people now build software much faster. They're expecting people want to be more agile. They release software much more often. They're using very different technologies than they used to use in the past. The architectures are different. We're no longer relying on monolithic architectures. Now we have microservices architectures. And even the technologies that people use. So in the past there was a lot of Java and .NET made up the bulk of the applications, and maybe it's still the case in many enterprises, but certainly modern applications are written using a much more diverse set of technologies and runtimes and so on. And this drive to use different types of technologies, running in the cloud, releasing faster, it sort of put the security focus or raises the question to how do we solve security? So we got better at automating testing, at automating release, at monitoring, at getting better at operations. Responding to incidents and so on. But we're just starting to ask ourselves, how do we do security at this pace, at this speed?
Yeah. In September 2016, news broke of a massive data breach impacting hundreds of millions of Yahoo accounts. And just talk a little bit about how this jeopardizes not just Yahoo account holders, but also account holders of thousands of other web services and applications they may subscribe to through a process called credential stuffing, and what can be done to stop that?
Absolutely, yeah. So credential stuffing is probably the single most powerful tool at the disposal of attackers today, right? So people share passwords, and people have passwords and accounts on multiple sites on the internet, many sites. Well, when the referenced breach of Yahoo, 500 million accounts, probably a lot of those users actually have sites on many of the top 30,000 sites, let's say. So there are bots out there now. Actually, we track over 1 million bots that are trying every single one of those passwords in combination credentials, basically, against every single one of those sort of top 30,000 sites. And there are sites that are losing thousands of accounts per day. Okay? So it's a very easy to do attack. Bots can be rented by the hour now. Getting access to hundreds of millions of stolen credentials that are guaranteed to work on a lot of sites is trivial. These are publicly available information at this point. And so it's a real problem. In fact, it is probably the single most way in which attackers actually successfully gain data or actually perform data breaches. The use of stolen credentials.
So what can be done to effectively put a stop to the process of credential stuffing or make it less effective?
Now, what can be done is we think of the problem in multiple phases. So that we talk about a phase 1 and a phase 2. Phase 1 is the account harvesting phase. This is the phase where the bots are actually just trying those hundreds of millions of credentials on multiple sites, tens of thousands of them, and figuring out which ones actually work on which site. For there, Immunio is looking at many different indicators. You know, is that IP address where that login event is coming from? Is that a known bad reputation IP address? We do our own analysis on, we think it's a legitimate user or not. We keep track of, you know, the rate at which invalid logins are happening, and it's many other sort of indicators. And when we think that there's a botnet or credential stuffing campaign happening from a particular endpoint, well, we can also take protective action and block it. Usually we serve CAPTCHAs. That's the right way to deal with bots, because there's usually going to be good users behind the same IP address as the bot as well. The second phase of account takeovers is when the actual account theft happens. So just by stopping invalid login events, you're not going to catch or stop all. Some accounts have been stolen already before you deployed any protective technology. Some accounts are going to be guessed right, and some accounts are going to be stolen via other means like phishing or malware and so on. So there needs to be some additional component or a different way of detecting whether that an account has been compromised. And the way we do it is we do behavioral analysis on the actual user. So if, for example, Bradley logs in normally from New York City and normally using this operating system or browser, and then, you know, within a very small time period, we see Bradley logging in from Romania using a very different browser profile, for example. We may flag that. Again, we do a bit more sophisticated events, but we may flag that as a potentially stolen account, right? So we think that this combination of stopping the harvesting while it's happening is extremely important. Otherwise, you're losing thousands of accounts per day. In combination with the assume accounts have been stolen, how do you find out which ones have happened, which is the behavioral analysis approach that we take. We think the combination of both is actually an effective way to stop credential stuffing or the impacts of credential stuffing.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank
me
you.
today. Again, this is Brad Barth, senior reporter at SE Magazine with Zaid Al Hamami. Until next time, have a safe day online.